Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is vlog number 16 and today this is actually location number 2 because location number 1 was an absolute bust. It's not that it wasn't a beautiful walk, it was lovely. It was a place called Little Drumwood, which some of you may have heard me talking about on Instagram. I went along and there was not a single bluebell. All the drive, all the way up, there was millions of them. When I got to the woods, there were none, so I don't know what's going on. The foliage is there, but there's just no bluebells, so I don't know what's going on. Apparently it's been hailed as one of the most beautiful places to see bluebells, so maybe they'll come out a wee bit later in the season, I'm not really sure. But as you can see behind me, I found a really awesome location. This is called Glen Carron. I went from Glen Finglas and it was about 30 miles east to Glen Carron, and this is near Falkirk. Well, it's actually nearer Denny than Falkirk, and it is stunning. There's this bit behind me. I found an old dead tree for some contrast between the bluebells, so I had to very carefully find some dead spots, like brown spots on the ground to step on to get in and make sure my tripod wasn't crushing them and things like that, because we have to be careful, we have to be very courteous. So this shot here is absolutely amazing. It's an absolute blinder. I'm really happy with how it turned out. The tree and the bluebells, there's nothing else in the picture, but it just works so well. I had to find a really shaded bit in here, and you've got the dark forests with the bluebells just really vibrant at the moment, and then this awesome stark tree stuck in the middle of it. So I really like it. It's very abstract, I quite like it. So for this shot, I've shot with quite a shallow depth of field. I wanted to keep the bluebells looking quite dreamy looking. I was shooting at f4, 80th of a second, ISO 100. So we're going to continue down this trail, see if there's anything else here. So I've definitely got one shot from here. Next we're going to Cumbernauld Glen, and then we've got one final location which may or may not be easy to find because I was recommended it by a friend, so let's see if we can go find it. So when I first thought about doing the bluebells, I thought it'd be quite easy to find a composition here. This is Cumbernauld Glen. This is spectacular for bluebells. The whole forest is just covered in a carpet of bluebells. It looks amazing. And behind me, you've got an awesome composition. I don't know if this is going to work. The sky's getting pretty dull, pretty dark, very stormy looking, so I'm not sure if this is going to work. So what I've got here is a fallen tree mixed with a new growth, and it looks like they're fighting and they're intertwining with each other, and I absolutely love it. And just as it happens, I found a sort of broken tree branch on the ground as well, which I'm using as a bit of foreground. So I've done a vertical and a horizontal shot for this one. I'm not sure if they're going to work. It's a woodland photographer's dream, this place. It's absolutely amazing for the bluebells. There's a little bit of a haze in the air as well. It almost feels quite humid just now. The bluebells are loving it, they're very vibrant. So to talk you through my composition, I've got the tree branch on the ground with the bluebells. I'm doing a vertical shot just now. I'm shooting at f8, a 1/5 of a second. It's very dark here, as you can probably tell, and ISO 100. But what I'm struggling with at the moment is the bright white sky. So I'm kind of hoping some of that grey sky comes down a wee bit lower and fills in some of those white gaps, because they just look ridiculous. I just wanted it all to be about the beautiful colours of the new tree versus the beautiful colours of the dead tree and the beautiful colours of the bluebells. So I'm wearing my bluebell jumper today. I'm going to try, maybe I should lie down and try and blend in. So this place is massive, but there's a pretty clear path here, as you can see. That path has been very easy to follow, and there's not any sort of trodden bluebells here or anything like that, so it's very well preserved as well. I think if you came here when the sun was out, it'd be a completely different place. But I'm liking the moody aspect of it just now. I know that tomorrow is probably a better day for shooting these. I wanted more saturated colours, which obviously you only get after rain, which we had this morning. So obviously bluebells are very cheerful, and I wanted something that was a bit less cheerful. I'm going to sound like such a grumpy git. I think I've definitely caught that today, especially with my tree branch earlier. It's a stoater. I've seen another couple here actually which look exactly the same. There's one over there, and there's a whole bunch up there, and there's a fallen tree branch behind me over there which is also covered in moss. but I'm trying to be very particular about what I pick out here because it's so easy to get lost in places like this. Not physically, well I probably would, and not find a clear-cut composition, but when you've got them literally lying across and strewn all over the floor, yeah, it's an absolute dream being here. So I'm pretty much like a kid in a playground just now. So we're going to continue around on our walk and maybe find some more. Welcome back. So we're just going to have a quick skip through the photographs I managed to get from the shoot at 3 different locations. So the first location I went to was Glen Finglas, and I've heard a lot about it. I've heard very good things about it. I've heard that it's probably the most amazing place to go see the bluebells, and there weren't any, so I've probably got there far too early in the season for them. So I went about 30 miles east to Carron Glen Wildlife Reserve. Got a parking space fairly easily. There was really good signposts, it was easy to find. It's in Denny, which is just next to Falkirk, so it was not very far. It was gorgeous. It was a sort of woodland trail all the way through. It goes from one end up to Carron Glen near the river Carron and then back again, so it's a really nice walk. My first composition I actually found, which I haven't posted on social media, I'll talk about that in a wee moment. But the first picture I actually kept was this photograph of a tree fallen over, and what I loved about it was the fact that it was in the shade, so there was no sunlight hitting it, there was nothing hitting it, but the bluebells were so vibrant and the contrast between the two different things was phenomenal. Yeah, it was very dark and very moody, and it's the kind of thing I was looking for that day. So I wasn't looking for bright and cheery sunny woodland pictures, I was looking for something a little bit more sinister looking, and I think that covers it. I think it looks quite scary actually. I love it though, but I think it does look a bit scary. So that's the first picture. Right, so the other picture that I got in Carron Glen, when I initially approached the subject, I thought it had a perfect composition. It was sort of split into like a rule of thirds type scenario. You've got a beautiful wee tree at the back, then you've got the bluebells, then you've got this awesome rock covered in moss. It just looked, in theory, it looked brilliant, it looked perfect. After I'd taken the shot and I got it into processing, I realised that I had to bin it. Oh, maybe I won't bin it, maybe I'll keep it just for the sake of having it, but it annoyed me the more I looked at it, because while I was on location I was so caught up with how gorgeous it was, and the bluebell dust must have went up my nose or something, but I missed a really obvious error in the background, and you'll probably notice it now and you'll probably start to annoy you as well, but I'll show you the picture. And there's a fallen tree, so it cuts right through the back of the whole background, and I really didn't like it, so I think it detracts from the image, and I think if I tried to take it out and clone it out, I think it would have just destroyed the image, so I've just left it. It had so much potential. If there had been a more of a clean background there, that tree on its own with that midground and the rock would have been fantastic, but yeah, it wasn't meant to be. So I moved on to the next one, and then I found the dead tree lying in the middle of the bluebells, and it looks amazing, so I'm really glad that I just kept walking. I didn't really find anything else, so I went on to Cumbernauld Glen, which isn't far from Glasgow at all. So I've basically done a bit of a circle here. I started near Aberfoyle, came down to Falkirk, down to Cumbernauld. But this was my second image on location, and this was it's been turned into a bit of a panorama. This to me sort of signifies the more traditional photograph you'd probably see of bluebells, with the lovely woodland and the gorgeous limey trees and the sun coming through the back and all that sort of stuff. I think the only thing it's missing is some sun rays, but I think it's still a nice image. I've cropped it into a panorama just to the scale of the tree branch on the left hand side. It draws your eye in and then it also takes you into the bluebells. Yeah, I quite like it. It's a bit unusual, something a bit different. So this next photograph was taken about halfway through the walk. There's a very clear path through the bluebells in Cumbernauld Glen. It's huge, the area is massive, it's absolutely gorgeous, it's just so vibrant, and obviously they're not there very long, so I'm assuming it would just look like a normal lovely green woodland, so it's got potential for all times of the year. So this bit of the woods I've never been in before, and I decided to follow the path through the bluebell bit to see how far it went, and it goes for ages. There's tons and tons of bluebells there, and I found this log, but this wasn't what drew me to this picture. The bit in the background is what drew me to this picture. So the two trees at the background look like they're fighting with each other, and you've got this old dead tree on one side and you've got this beautiful young new tree on the other side, and they seem to be intertwined and fighting in the back. I loved that, and that's what drew me across the path to get to this bit, to see if there's anything I could use in the foreground. If there wasn't a branch on the ground, I was probably going to just use the bluebells as foreground, but I'm glad I found something to kind of lead you in a little bit. So this kind of forked branch acts like a leading line up to the background, but I think this photograph for me is just all about that background. I loved it. I did do a landscape version without the branch in it, but I don't think it works as well. I think this one gives you a bit more context to where you are in your environment. Right, and the next picture was taken after I'd seen some deer running through the Bluebell wood, and I didn't have my camera out and I was raging. So I got this picture because I stood about waiting with my camera ready just in case they appeared. There was about 3 deer running through, and that would have just been stunning. This picture was taken just as I was waiting for them. So I was down on the path and they're kind of up probably about 4 feet above my head, and you're just looking straight through the bluebells to the sort of sunny golden light in the background, and you've got this awesome framing thing going on with the branch and the tree trunk and stuff. It just looks really, really nice. So as I was walking through the Bluebell wood, the sun decided to come out for about 3 minutes, so I ran all the way down to where the sun was hitting. I was trying to follow where it was moving and trying to see where it was going to hit, and as soon as I locked down the location, I got my tripod ready, low as I could get it, had my 50mm lens on, f1.8 I think I was shooting at, ISO 100, and I got this picture, which I really love this picture. The backlight of the sun really, really makes this picture. It's got a lovely dreamy effect to it. I think all the focus being on that one bud surrounded by all the green, I think it's just a really nice picture. I've also got a landscape version of this, which I'll show you as well. I don't know if I've posted this one on social media or not. It's a wee bit busier. There's a bit more chaos in the background. There's more of the environment there. There's more bluebells, obviously. So there's more purple in this one, more blue. The other one is very much a standalone bluebell with sort of surrounded by greens and yellows, completely different tones. I love having that focus on the subject rather than your eye kind of looking about trying to find the one that's in focus. So I think I prefer the portrait one out of 2 of them. But you can let me know what you think in the comments. If you prefer the landscape one, then let me know. So on my way back to the main path, which kind of leads you back up to where the car was parked, I saw this fallen branch, which it looks awesome. Completely different feel from the picture that I took in Carron Glen, but the other one was also very dark and moody. This one has the brightness and the cheeriness of the sort of traditional bluebell photos, the sort of spring photos, but there's a big dead branch in the middle of it, and I know that seems a bit odd, but to me it looks like a stag. Don't know if anybody else can see it, but I think it looks like a stag. I suppose it was a bit of a consolation prize because I didn't get a stag photo, so I got this photo, which probably isn't to everyone's taste. I know a lot of people don't like that sort of stuff, but I quite like it. I really just like the shape of the branch. I love how the branch is sort of sweeping round and up, and you get these 2 big massive branches at the top which look like antlers. I quite like it, it's a bit unusual. So I've actually set the focus on the branch so that everything prior to that would be out of focus and create that lovely shell depth of field. And I think that's worked really well. It's made it also look quite dreamy. There's something quite fairy tale like about this picture. I don't know what it is. It kind of reminds me of something out of Narnia or something. I suppose that's just how our brains work. When you're taking pictures, you're sort of reminded of other things that appeal to you, and obviously that's why you want to take pictures. So I hope you've enjoyed coming on this wee bluebell journey with me today. It's been very surprising. I've never photographed bluebells before, as I said, so it's definitely made me think ahead of what's coming next and trying to plan shoots around that. So obviously the next thing would be summer, which a lot of photographers don't like because you've got to get up super early for sunrise and you've got to hang about really, really late for sunset. But I really enjoy camping, so I'm going to try and incorporate some wild camping into my photography vlogs this year and get the tent out. I've got a really nice wee 2-man bango tent, so I'm going to try and get that out and get up some hills and get some wild camping done, so that I'm there for sunrise and sunset. I've had a question on Instagram today about what kind of camera kit I use. I've actually got it in every single video in the description. If you go down to my description, there's a list of all the gear that I use for everything. I use an iPhone 8 for filming indoors at the moment because my DSLR isn't up to it apparently. So I'm looking at a new DSLR, probably the Canon M50. Possibly looking at that one, so for general vlogging use. There's one that's got a wee flip out bit, I can't remember what it's called, but I'm looking at getting a new vlogging camera for out and about because at the moment I'm using the GoPro for locations and I'm using an iPhone 8 because it shoots in 4K. So any other questions though, feel free to fire them to me on Instagram or in the comments and I'm happy to answer anything that you have. Thank you very much for your support once again and for continuing to watch my videos, and if you like this video, like and subscribe. Until next week, I'll see you soon. Bye!